everybody, it's Chad Danke from the Unshackled Realtor. Hey, I just want to give you a background of how the Unshackled Realtor really started and how it came about. I'm one of them people at a young age, like in first grade, I was already selling toys. By the age of third grade, I had a paper route. I shoveled sidewalks, I mowed lawns to make money. By the time I got to junior high, I was selling candy. I got into high school, graduated, and college wasn't really much for me, so I quickly got into car sales. And that was my first experience of getting into a commission life, right? Of where you sell something and it's a one and done sales cycle. And I'll never forget the day I was in there. There was a guy by the name of Steve Westover. So there was a bunch of scumbags in the business, but this guy was good. He looked at me, he said, "Chad, you know what? You're young, you're smart, get out of the business." And I didn't really understand what he meant at the time. It took me 20-something years to really figure that out. But one thing I did know is I didn't want to continue to be in the car business. So I got in the next best thing. I got into the motorcycle business, right? And so I hit the ground running, and I really went literally from pushing a broom as a lot tech to a salesman to a finance manager to a sales manager to the GM of my own store by the time I was 27. And I quickly figured out there's two things I didn't have a whole lot of time, a whole lot of things with. I didn't have time. I didn't have freedom. I was running around with my head cut off, right? And this is my little shoes. This is me. This is me sweat, right? It's I didn't have a whole lot of time and freedom to do things, and so I quickly became burnt out on the industry. By the age of 27, I was completely done. I wasn't enjoying it, which is a wrong thing with motorcycles and stuff, right? And the straw that broke the camel's back was one day I was at a meeting, and the owner would always do this like a couple days before the weekend. We had multiple dealerships. He would be like, "We're going to have a mega sale. We're going to have a mega sale. We'll put ads in the paper. Everybody needs to be there." Well, one of the sales managers had time off. And we're like, "Look, he's got time off." And he said, "That's not my problem." And that was the day I was done. And mentally, I checked out. And I went off and I did what a lot of people think they're going to do. I went out and I got my own dealership. And I put on the title belt, right? And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to tear it up. I'm going to do it different. Yeah." And I went out and I quickly found out that having the title belt isn't everything it's cracked up to be, right? I quickly became the janitor, the CEO, the finance manager, and I got my teeth kicked in. I almost went out of business as fast as I got in it. But I slowly chipped away. I ground it out. It was super stressful. And over the years, I just slowly started to build things and just hustle and get it off the ground. Well, eventually, I met my wife, and we got married, and we started having kids. We started having little ones, right? I got one, and now I got two. And that was a big tall one. Now I got three. And now I have actually four kids. And so, we bought a house eventually, but before we got married, actually what we did is we went on a trip to Sierra Leone for our wedding in Africa. And this is going to be my bad picture of Africa. But if you've ever seen that little place called Sierra Leone in Africa, the movie Blood Diamond, that's what Leonardo DiCaprio was in. Blood Diamond, that's where we went. And that was a little bit over 10 years ago. And that was the last, solid, real vacation that just wasn't a couple days that I actually had been on since then. Because I was in an industry that was one and done. And so, again, life got in the way. We started having kids. That's the last time, we truly vacationed. And the one thing that I learned when I was on that trip was I'm on this earth to be more than the person that just works and does something, right? There's more to life than that, especially out in the rest of the world when they don't have it like this. So it was a life-changing event. But life goes on, and I kept working, I kept hustling, I kept building stuff, and life gets in the way. And eventually, one day, my wife was looking at HGTV, saw how some houses down in Arizona, takes a look at them, and sees how cheap they are. Well, our house in Colorado gone up like 140 grand, and so I looked at things in Arizona. I said, look, I could run the dealership down there, and literally, like within 9 months. We had picked up, we moved, we sold our house, we cashed out, and we came to Arizona. And so I got here, I hit the ground running, I started hustling, I started running around, sweating like crazy, right? No time, no freedom, billing everything. Meanwhile, my kids, right, they're all growing up. I got soccer games I'm missing. They go on vacation, they went to Legoland without me. And here I am building, running around, selling motorcycles, one and done. Every time I buy something, one and done, one and done. And so during this time, all these years, I also noticed something else that was happening, right? I noticed that the margins were getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And everybody, expects business. They want it to always go in a straight line, right? We want business to go in a straight line. But that's not how it works. Like, there's always shifts and there's always disruptors that come in the business, right? And these disruptions, for the people that make the move, this is where the new money is, right? And companies that don't make that shift go out of business, right? They go out of business. And like you said, the margins were getting smaller and smaller. And I'll never forget the day that I was on the showroom and somebody I heard was talking about eBay, whatever, and they were like, I never buy a car off eBay. That's such a scam. Oh my gosh. Oh. And how times have changed, right? Because that shift that came along was the internet, right? And the one thing the internet did, again, it leveled the playing field. And the one thing I noticed after that is that there was no differentiation between me and every other dealer, right? We all had the same salespeople. We all had the same vehicles. We all had the same motorcycles. Like, everything was the same. Like, nothing had changed. And when you have no differentiation, the margins get shrunk. And you see this now, say like I have the same car on Amazon, okay? And they're identical, same color, everything. And mine is $59.99. And yours is $54.99. Who's gonna win? Right? You're gonna buy the cheapest one. And so that's what these companies had figured out. So we were the old car dealers, right? I mean, we had the brick and mortar. Let me get my pen. We had the brick and mortar. We had like the buildings, all the overhead, all the stuff. And these new companies like BP, CarMax, Car Canva, they were changing the industry, right? They saw this shift. And meanwhile, we were just the old car dealers. With all the overhead, all the large margins, and can't compete because these guys, they don't have salespeople. They just ship it straight to your front door. They don't need salespeople. All they're selling is just price, sell guarantee, come and get it, hassle-free, da-da-da-da-da-da. Whereas over here, you got salespeople, overhead, title clerks, all the other things. And so they made that shift. So one day sitting at my computer, totally frustrated, because again, I had no time, I had no freedom. I was running around with my head cut off, trying to build something in a system that didn't come full circle, right? It's just always one and done sales, always one and done sales. And I just said to myself, Chad, you're getting older, man. You can't do this anymore. Like, how are you going to live a life? How are you going to be able to do mission work things in the future? You're going to miss all your kids' stuff if you keep doing something that doesn't go full circle. You need to do something that comes back around, that comes around just like recycling. And that if you do it, will come back around and around. So sitting there again, frustrated with my hands on my head, not knowing what to do, and knowing I couldn't do this running around in the middle of the night buying stuff and competing against companies that have way more dollars. I just finally went to my wife and said, you know what, I'm shutting it all down. I'm gonna get back into real estate. I'm gonna get into real estate, back into it. I'd done some rent to owns before the last crash. I was like, at least I can get into that, and people can refer people to me, and it can come full circle, right? So you sell something, at least you can get referrals. It's good money, and it'll come full circle. So that's what I did. I got my real estate license. I jumped in, and I hopped into 100% brokerage. And I hit the ground running, and I did what any good person could do. My motto has always been, it's okay to be a copycat if you copy the right cat. So I hit the ground running. I started reading, started watching videos, looking at all the people, the gurus, the top dogs and everything, on what they were doing. And I came across this guy by the name of Russell Brunson. And if you aren't familiar with him, Russell Brunson builds funnels. And what funnels are just like using the internet, and a funnel is just like gold. You know, you got all this dirt, but then you bring people through, and then at the end, you're trying to get to the gold, right? And it's leveraging the internet. And down here at the end is your gold, which is your money, right? And so he would use the internet to run systems to bring people in. And so I saw that, and I was like, wow, I could use this. I could use this for Facebook. And rather than doing open houses and everything like I was, which is good. I mean, open houses are great. I made a lot of money doing them. But you're in open houses and it's only you, right? And then maybe a couple people show up, and it's one-to-one, and it's hard to get out there. But then using the internet, like with this system, you only have one. Like if you're fishing, and this is your pool of water, right? You only really have one line in the water. You only have one line in the water with your fishing pole. You're fishing here, that's my pole, right? Okay, that's my fishing pole. You only have one line, so you can do one-to-one. But with the internet, using funnels, you could put more poles in the water, right, with hooks. So I started looking at that, and quickly realized that most of the people out there are just selling shiny object stuff, like clickbait on Facebook, right? It's all this, oh, you need this object, you need this object. I'm just here to tell you that, guys, the real gurus that are doing it right, they aren't on the front pages. They're not selling you all this hokey stuff that they say is going to blow up for you here tomorrow. Like the real people, you got to look and you got to find. So I started designing my ads and reverse engineering instead of sales, and doing attractive marketing and writing my own copy and designing my own stuff to where the leads would come more to me rather than me chase them. But so I started doing this, and but when you're doing leads, you're still doing a lot of volume, you still need a lot of systems, and you still don't have time and freedom. I mean, you're still running around. So again, sitting at the open house one day and waiting on people, I had a thought. I was like, man, how can I reverse engineer things? How can I make it to where I have more time and freedom? And so one of the big problems I always had is when I would get a lead, right? And I would get a lead, and then I would try to pass it off to my lender. I pass it off to the lender, there's always a disconnect, right? Because you get them on the phone, then you're like, let me get you my lender, and then they disappear. And so there was always this disconnect, and I always said, why am I talking to them first? I mean, shouldn't they be talking and getting approved from the lender first, and then coming to me? And so I said, you know what if, rather than me sending stuff from Facebook, like coming from Facebook, which is the middle, you got Facebook, right, which is the internet. Rather than the stuff coming from me to me, what if I started running leads to lenders? And then they got them pre-qualified first, and then once they were qualified, then they would send the leads back over to me, right? And so that's what I started to do. I started to look for lenders that I could partner with and start running ads to where they came to them first, and then they would start sending stuff to me. So this started to free up some things a little bit, right? I started leveraging, splitting my costs with mortgage people, and so that did a lot, but I still didn't have a whole lot of time and freedom. Still was running around, helping clients in the middle of the night, whenever they want, still missing games and things like that. So just sitting there frustrated, I just trying to still think of ways. And as I thought of stuff, I saw some other things coming in the industry as well that happened in the car industry was happening here in the real estate industry. Okay, I saw a shift. I was noticing shift that was going on as well. And you may have known some of these companies like Redfin, Zillow, Open Door, and that's just to name a few. I saw these new companies that were getting rid of brick and mortar and shifting with internet. And I was noticing the margins were getting smaller and smaller and smaller in the industry. It's on the way. And so, I mean, other companies have made this shift as well. If you haven't noticed in the past, some that have done that is you have, now you have Netflix. Who'd they put out of business? Right, guys? Who'd they put out? Well, we all know. Blockbuster, right? Now you got companies like Uber who have made the shift. Who are they putting out? They're putting out Yellow Cab, right? They got Yellow Cab. So I saw this shift coming into the industry. I saw that they were replacing brick and mortar, and I knew that something was going to happen. And I didn't want to be a part. I didn't want to end up down here again. I didn't want to be in an industry and have to restart all over. So I started thinking of ways, again, to create more time, to create more freedom, so I'm not running around with my head cut off. And I thought about, like, hey, well, what if I started running a team? I mean, I could create a team, and I could get people underneath me, and then I could start making money on them. And that occurred in my head, and then I thought back to when I ran the dealerships. And when I had the building, and I had to train people, and I had to feed them and give them leads, and then they would quit on you, and you're always just turn and burn, you got all this stress. And man, you couldn't pay me to do that again. And the thing is I don't want to fly with pigeons. I mean, I want to hang out with eagles. And so if I was to do something, I'm going to collaborate with people. I'm going to collaborate with small business owners. There's a huge difference between sitting at a table and collaborating and then just feeding people like pigeons and then it all falling apart and exploding on you because they always leave for the next best thing. Huge difference. So I was like, no, you know what? I'm out of here. I don't want nothing to do with that. So I scrapped that. And so I just kept thinking, what could I do? Keeping my feelers out, looking in. I knew something was out there. And then I was in a real estate group, and this guy, Brandon, was talking. And he says something about, as I'm listening, something about getting paid in Canada off people. And I heard it, and I was like, wait a second, what? And he's like, yeah, I'm getting paid off of people in Canada. I said, what are you talking about, man? And I said, you got to explain this more, because immediately my BS meter's going up, right? Because I had run a dealership before, right? I'd run a dealership. I knew that you had to be licensed, that you can't cross state lines, that you have to, you got to build a team, you got to do all this stuff. So I knew what it all got into it. It was no different than running a dealership. And so immediately I was just all over, like, what are you talking about? But internally, my interest was piqued, right? Because I had been looking for something that would come full circle, right? Because I had started to build components, right, for the Unshackled Realtor. My frustration had come out, and I had started to build things. I had the Facebook, right? I had Facebook is part of one thing here, and then like here I had the mortgage, right? It was like building that there, and then I was looking for another piece, something else that was going to see the shift in the future, but then would also take care of everything. So I said, Brandon, you got to tell me more, all right? And he goes in and he starts to tell me more. He goes, well, we're nationwide. We're in every state, everyone in the United States, and we're in Canada. I knew some people that were in Canada, and I referred them into the company. And when they sell something, I get paid off of it. And I'm like, what? And he says, well, I get paid off. I go, wait a second, what are you talking about? I mean, you can't go across state lines. You can't do this. You can't do that. I start going through everything. He goes, man, they got it designed differently. We're not like that. And so I said, well, you got to tell me more. And so I start digging in. He starts telling me about this stuff and about the technology and going into everything. And internally, man, my gears are really turning, right? Because he's telling me how they're doing the shift with technology. I had done the Russell Brunson, the Facebook funnels. I knew about webinars. I was taking stuff nationwide and going, you could take this stuff all over, America. And that's my America. That's my America. When he starts going over, and I'm thinking, wow, you can take this virtually, and if you bring people in, you can get residual. So I'm starting to put the pieces together in residual, and I see where it starts to come full circle, and I'm getting fired up inside, and I'm thinking instantly, man, I can help build this and bring it to anywhere in the United States or in Canada, and build the system where people just plug and play into Facebook. They're set up with mortgage lender because I got people that are nationwide. They can go in any state. They follow up with leads, and they could build something with residual income. So now they start building this thing that comes full circle, but it really turns into a three-legged stool, right, in the industry, to where you're not just one and done sales, to where it's not just a one-trick pony. And the thing is, if you got sick, your family would still be making income. Or like if you want to retire one day, which we don't have, we're all hourly, it's just all one and done commission sales, like where are you ever going to have retirement for that? And so the pieces started to come together, and then the whole thing of doing the trips to Sierra Leone, doing mission work that I want to do, and start to put everything together. And that's when the Unshackled Realtor really started to come together, and said, man, I can take this and really help other people get out of the frustration that I was in as well. And that was just the day that everything came together, and the Unshackled Realtor came apart. And so now everything that I do is all full circle. It has to have something that comes all the way around, that's going to create time, that's going to create freedom, and then I can teach to others. And so that was the day that I discovered real estate's newest revenue model, and how top real estate agents are getting paid regardless of whether they sell homes or not. And that's how it all came about. So if you guys, thanks for stopping by here today. Go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'd like to see how I got started on Facebook and get a free Facebook course, go ahead and click on the link down below. I'll send you all the videos of my free Facebook course, to where you can start unshackling, you can start finding freedom, You can start building in an industry that hasn't had a model like this before, and you can find your own freedom. I appreciate your time here today. You have a good day. Talk to you soon.